Sarah Martinez was halfway through her sentence when the door burst open. "Don't move." The military police showed up in large numbers at the meeting for veterans. Guns. Sarah's coffee mug broke on the floor when strong hands pulled her arms behind her back. "Sarah Martinez, you are being arrested for pretending to have military honors and for cheating." The other veterans looked surprised as she was taken away in handcuffs. The evening began just like any other Tuesday at the Riverside Community Center. 12 veterans sat in a circle of different chairs. The bright lights create soft shadows on faces that show hidden pain. Sarah had been going to these meetings for 8 months, always sitting in the same place by the window, always getting there 5 minutes before. She didn't talk much, but when she did, what she said was important and made everyone pay attention. Tonight felt different. Marcus Webb, a former Army sergeant who had a big belly and was a bit grumpy, was talking a lot and telling exaggerated stories about his time in Afghanistan. Sarah listened carefully, getting more frustrated with every stretch of the truth, until Marcus said he had taken down a Taliban base all by himself. "That's not how it works," Sarah said softly, her words breaking through Marcus's loud talk like a sharp knife. "You shouldn't go into a place by yourself. There are rules, backup systems, and places for getting resources. Real fighting is not like playing a video game." Marcus's face had turned red. "Oh, what do you know about that, darling? You work as a mechanic." The room was quiet. Everyone knew Sarah worked at Jimmy's car repair shop in town. Her hands were always dirty with grease, and she wore coveralls that covered up what she had on underneath. She was ordinary in all the ways that were important to people like Marcus. She is small, quiet, and has brown hair that reaches her shoulders, that she kept her hair in a simple ponytail. "I know because I saw it myself," Sarah said, her voice steady even though her hands were shaking a little. Syria, 2019. Our team was assigned to secretly enter an important target location near Raqqa. Information indicated that they had captured American hostages. The group looked at each other. Sarah had never talked about her work before, just mentioned it briefly when asked about being away. Now she was talking clearly and accurately, like someone giving a report on a planned job. "We entered at 3 a.m. with a team of 4 people. The information was incorrect. It was a trick. They were looking for us." Her voice became quieter, and her eyes looked at something far away beyond the community center's ceiling. "The first bomb destroyed our communication systems. In the second one, she touched her collarbone without thinking, where 3 straight scars were hidden under her flannel shirt." Marcus had laughed dismissively. "Okay, I guess you were in special forces, like a Navy SEAL." He spoke in a sarcastic way. "Come on, ma'am. Women can't complete SEAL training, much less work in combat teams." "Actually," Sarah said, looking right at him, "I was a Navy SEAL, part of Team 6, which focuses on special ocean missions. My nickname was Phantom." The room was filled with noise. Half of the veterans laughed loudly, while the others looked uneasy. Marcus took out his phone and typed quickly on the screen. "I'm calling this in. Stolen valor is a crime against federal law. I'm not going to sit here and listen to someone pretending to be a mechanic talk bad about real fighters." Sarah stayed calm while Marcus called the military police hotline. She sat very still, breathing calmly while he complained about fake claims and rude people. The other veterans had tried to calm things down, but Marcus would not listen. "Do you want to see what real fighting is like?" Sarah asked softly as they waited. "It's not brave. It's not great. It's seeing your friend hurt and helpless in your arms while you're tied to a chair, hearing them call your real name repeatedly until they can't take it anymore and tell the bad guys everything." The room became very quiet. Even Marcus had stopped walking back and forth. It's spending 4 months in a tiny room where you can't stand up, eating rice and cockroaches while they do things like waterboarding and electric shocks to try to break you. It's about getting away by defeating 3 guards with a broken piece of concrete, and then walking 47 miles through dangerous areas while having a hurt shoulder and bleeding inside. Her voice never shook and never changed in tone. She said the details like she was reading a shopping list, but her hands were shaking so much that she had to hold them together. It's returning to a country that wiped away all evidence of your service, gave you a new name, and asked you to forget everything that happened because it was too secret for history. They are working as a mechanic because it's the only job they could find that doesn't require a background check, which could reveal things that didn't officially happen. That's when the door burst open. As the police car drove away from the community center, Sarah saw her face in the window. She looked just like she was meant to look. A 34-year-old mechanic lived a simple life in a small apartment above a Chinese restaurant on 5th Street. Someone ordinary. Someone easy to overlook. Someone who definitely didn't receive any awards. Maybe she had more confirmed kills than most people have had birthdays. But the 3 lines on her collarbone showed something else. In a secret file that people said wasn't real, Admiral Rebecca Taus was about to receive a phone call that would change everything. Detective Ray Coleman closed the case file hard in anger, and the noise echoed in the quiet office at 2:47 a.m. Sure, please provide the text you want me to rewrite in simple words. After 3 days of questioning, Sarah, Martinez still hadn't given in. Every other stolen valor case he dealt with fell apart within a few hours. The scams always made mistakes with basic military information, got their ranks mixed up, or couldn't say why they didn't have any papers. But Sarah was not like the others. Sarah was a real mystery, dressed in coveralls and smelling like motor oil. Coleman rubbed his eyes and opened the file again, spreading the papers on his desk like a puzzle that wouldn't come together. On one side, there was a woman who wasn't listed in any military records. She had no service history, no papers showing she left the military, no benefits for veterans, nothing at all. On the other side, there was someone who had knowledge that made his 20 years in law enforcement seem like nothing. The first warning sign appeared during the 2nd hour of the first questioning. Coleman used a common trick by saying some made-up military words to see if she would respond. Could you share your experience with tactical soup sandwiches when you were out in the field? Sarah stared at him as if he had a second head. Detective, there's no such thing as a tactical soup sandwich. Rewritten. Detective, a tactical soup sandwich doesn't really exist. That's not military talk. That's something you learned from a bad movie. A soup sandwich is a funny way to say something is really messed up, but you don't call it tactical. Are you really trying to challenge me, or do you just not understand what you're saying? That's a mistake for the detective. Hour 4 had been more difficult. Coleman asked Sergeant Major Patricia Hayes from the nearby recruiting station to help, thinking that a real military expert could find out the scam. Hayes spent 30 minutes asking Sarah many questions about basic training, rules, and more complex fighting skills. Sarah answered every question clearly and confidently, showing that she knew what she was talking about from her own experiences. Hayes asked to explain what the sound of bombs coming down was like. It depends on how far away it is, and the path it takes. Sarah answered right away. The loud noise is like a freight train and thunder together. The faraway ones whistle first. It sounded high and musical before the loud noise. But the truly dangerous ones, the ones that are going to fall right on you, don't make any noise at all. They just got here. Hayes turned white. Afterward, she took Coleman aside, and her voice was trembling. Ray, I've been in the Army for 18 years. I have spent 3 missions in Afghanistan. That woman explained the incoming fire better than many of my combat veterans. She's either the most committed liar I've ever met, or she's being honest. And there's a big problem with this situation. By the 2nd day, Coleman began having trouble sleeping. Sarah's knowledge was not only correct, it was detailed in ways that hinted at secret information. She talked about weapons that shouldn't exist, described strategies not found in any guide he could find, and mentioned actions that weren't listed anywhere. "Can you share what training you had?" he asked during one meeting. "Which part basic underwater diving, advanced shooting skills, and training on how to survive, escape, and resist? Are you asking about the special programs that don't have names?" "The special programs." Sarah looked at him carefully for a while. "Detective, if I shared those programs with you, you might think I'm crazy or you might have to silence me to keep the country safe. Neither choice looks very good." The big change happened when Coleman brought in Dr. tJudgeByLooks, a doctor who focuses on helping people with PTSD. Walsh was supposed to check how Sarah was thinking and figure out if she was confused or just not telling the truth. Instead, she came out of the meeting looking very shocked, like she'd seen a ghost. "Ray, we need to speak alone." In the hallway, Walsh grabbed his arm with shaking fingers. "That woman has experienced really tough things that would be too much for most people to handle. She talks about her time in captivity and shares specific details about the methods of torture and the mental effects it had on her. You can't pretend this or look it up. This is a personal experience. But there is no proof she served. Maybe the records are incorrect. Maybe they don't exist for a purpose." That night, Coleman did something he had never done in 20 years of being a police officer. He began making unofficial calls to people he knew in federal agencies, asking unclear questions about secret military units and hidden operations. Most people had ended the call with him. Some people told him to let it go and not think about it anymore. A former FBI agent named Torres, who now worked for a secret government agency, listened quietly to his questions. Then he said, "Detective Coleman, you're about to get into something much bigger than you can handle. Go ahead and complete the paperwork, submit the case, and try to move on from this woman." But Coleman couldn't forget, because on the third day, Sarah did something that changed everything. He had been asking her a lot about how she might have escaped from being held against her will, wanting to know facts that could be checked. Sarah was very calm and kind in her answers, as if she were talking to a child who didn't get simple ideas. "Do you want some evidence, detectives?" She pulled up her left sleeve, showing her arm full of what looked like random scars. "These are not by chance. They're a guide." Coleman leaned forward, even though he didn't mean to. I carved latitude and longitude numbers into my arm with a broken piece of glass during my 3rd month of being held captive. The place where they kept me. The location of the mass grave where they buried the other prisoners. The GPS location of the stash of weapons they intended to use for their next attack. She ran her finger over the scars, and Coleman saw that they were not just random marks. They were numbers carved deeply so they would last, and made clearly so they were useful. I remembered everything, detective. I remembered every face, every voice, and every detail of that place because I thought someone might need that info later. The question is, are you bold enough to check it? Coleman looked at those scars for a whole minute, his thoughts moving fast. If Sarah was not telling the truth, she was the most committed liar ever. If she was being honest? If she was honest, then a very powerful person had gone to great lengths to make people forget her. And that person was about to find out that their big lie was falling apart in a small-town police station. Coleman picked up his phone, asking one question at a time. He had to make a decision that could either end his job or completely change it. Everything he believed he understood about the fight against terrorism. The number he called belonged to Admiral Rebecca Torres, and it was about to ring in a secret place that wasn't supposed to be real. Admiral Rebecca Torres hadn't been in a regular police station in 15 years, but the encrypted call from NCI had broken her Tuesday morning like a hammer hitting glass. She was looking over budget reports in her Pentagon office when Agent Martinez, who wasn't related to her but was a funny coincidence, brought her news that shocked her. "Ma'am, we have a problem. A woman named Sarah Martinez has been arrested for pretending to be a soldier. She's saying that she used to be in Navy SEAL Team 6. The local detective is asking about secret activities." Torres had let go of her coffee cup. The black liquid spread over important papers like spilled blood. "What did you say her name is?" "A 34-year-old woman who works as a mechanic says she will arrive in 2 hours." The drive from Washington to the small town in Pennsylvania gave Torres time to think. And she really didn't want to think at all. The name was of a ghost. A woman who everyone thought was dead was actually hidden in a secret file that was so deep that even Torres needed special permission to see it. Ghosts had a way of returning to bother you, especially if you were the one who had killed them. Now she walked through the Riverside Police Department as if she was in charge. Her blue uniform made every officer she walked by respect her right away. The ribbons on her uniform showed that she had served in naval intelligence for 30 years. Actions that changed the modern world in ways people don't realize. But none of those ribbons showed her biggest achievement or her worst failure. Not succeeding Detective Coleman stopped her at the front desk. A tired man with smart eyes and a strong jaw that showed he was tough. "I'm Detective Coleman. I have to say, I didn't see that coming." Son Torres gave him a look that had scared both foreign diplomats and terrorist leaders. "You're about to enter a place so unknown that it isn't shown on any map. Where is she?" Coleman guided her through a complicated series of hallways, speaking quickly about proof, authority, and the correct way to do things. Torres listened to him, while her mind quickly thought of different options. How did Sarah survive? The last report had clearly said she was in trouble. All members of Unit 77 were killed in action. Their bodies were found and buried with full military honors in Arlington. Torres personally gave the folded flags to the families and looked into Sarah's mother's eyes, lying easily like someone who has spent her job keeping national secrets. But if Sarah were alive and had somehow gotten away, she has been here for 3 days, Coleman said. She won't crack and won't change her story. She says she was in a secret group and that her records were deleted. I've never seen anything like this, Admiral. Either she is the biggest liar ever or she is being honest. Torres finished quietly. They paused outside room 3 where people are questioned. Through the one-way glass, Torres saw a petite woman sitting quietly at a metal table. Sarah looked older and tired from pretending for so long, but she still stood tall. Even though she was wearing regular clothes and a lot of time had passed, she sat up straight like a soldier. Taus felt the heavy burden of 5 years on her. For 5 years, she thought she had caused the deaths of 12 of the Navy's best soldiers. For 5 years, I felt guilty about Operation Nightfall, a mission meant to stop the war on terror. But it went horribly wrong. I need to see her by myself. Torres said, Ma'am, this is part of an investigation. I can't just, Torres said, as she turned to look at him. Coleman noticed something in her eyes that made him take a step back. Detective, what I'm about to share with you is top secret. That woman in there is more than just a veteran. She's very powerful. A real piece of military equipment built to do scary things. If she is really who I think she is, then we have a serious issue that is much bigger than just pretending to have honor. Coleman gulped. What type of problem? A problem that could lead to a war. Torres walked into the room for questioning by herself, her heart pounding in her chest. Sarah looked up, and for a moment, it felt like time stopped. Suddenly, she was back in the briefing room at Naval Special Warfare Command, looking at 12 women who had signed up for the most dangerous mission in SEAL history. Sarah's voice broke like a teenager's, and all her careful self-control fell apart in a second. But they said you were dead, The entire group. They said everyone was dead. Torres sat down slowly and looked closely at the woman in front of her. Sarah seemed like an ordinary person, someone who had never used a weapon or harmed anyone. But Torres understood more. She understood what was hidden under the mechanic's work, clothes, and the normal life he seemed to have. "Please show me your left shoulder blade," Torres said softly. Sarah hesitated, glancing at the one-way mirror. "Admiral, some people are watching." Sarah turned around slowly and raised her shirt. Underneath a colorful butterfly tattoo, which was added later, there was a small black anchor with a trident. But it was the number below it that made Torres catch his breath. "It seems like you might have accidentally entered a number or code. If you provide text you want me to simplify, I'd be happy to help. The group that officially didn't exist. The program was kept so secret that just talking about it was considered a betrayal." "Jesus Christ," Torres said quietly. "You are really alive," Sarah said as she turned back, tears flowing down her face. "I've been trying to tell them for 3 days. I've been trying to explain something to someone for 5 years, but no one believes me because I'm not really here anymore, right? You made sure of that." The accusation struck Torres hard, like a strong hit, because Sarah was correct. Torres was the one who approved the cover-up, the person who thought that the truth about Operation Nightfall was too risky to ever be revealed. She had removed 12 women from history to keep a secret that could change governments. "Sarah, you need to get it. Understand?" Sarah's voice was getting louder. After 5 years of holding in anger, it finally came out. "You abandoned me. You told my mom I was dead while I was being hurt in the prison in Syria. You gave me a fake name and a fake life and told me to forget everything I did for this country." Torres felt trapped. She saw Detective Coleman looking closely through the glass, likely taking notes on everything being said. This talk was meant to fix a problem quietly, to clean up a situation that could reveal one of the military's biggest secrets. Instead, it was becoming a situation that should have happened 5 years ago. Torres said the mission was ruined. "We got information that said the mission was a trick," Sarah said. "We walked into a trap because someone in your group betrayed us. Instead of looking into who let us down, you made a choice. It was simpler to act like we were never here. The truth was in the air between them, heavy and tense like a dangerous thing." Torres had a feeling this was true, and had trouble sleeping at night, thinking about how the enemy knew exactly when and where Unit 77 would attack. But looking into it would have meant acknowledging the unit was real, leading to congressional hearings and media coverage, which could result in ending programs that were protecting America. Torres said there were bigger things to think about. Bigger than the lives of 12 women who believed in you. Torres shut her eyes. When she opened her eyes, Sarah was looking at her with a cold, angry expression that Torres had seen before in enemies. It was the expression of someone who felt they had nothing more to lose. "Do you really want to know what happened in Syria, Admiral? Do you want to know what your bigger decisions have caused?" Torres nodded, even though she felt like she should end this talk before it went on. Sarah leaned closer and spoke softly, but her words felt more threatening than if she had shouted. "Get ready, because you're about to find out why some secrets can be really risky to hold on to." Torres made everyone leave the room with just one word. Her voice showed she had been in naval intelligence for 30 years, and Detective Coleman found himself in the hallway before he even realized he was moving. Through the one-way glass, he saw the Admiral shut the door and turn on a small device that would mess up any recording equipment in the room. Whatever was going to happen next was not going to be recorded. When they were by themselves, Sarah finally started to cry. The calmness she had held for 3 days broke suddenly, and tears filled her eyes as 5 years of hurtful memories came rushing back. "They said you were dead, Admiral. The entire group. They said everyone was dead when they took me out." Torres sat in front of her, not seeing the hurt woman she was, but the strong warrior who had chosen to take on the riskiest mission in SEAL history. Sarah Ghost Martinez was the very best, a shooter who can hit a target through a small hole from 800 yards away, a language expert who could speak 4 Middle Eastern dialects perfectly, and a soldier who had always succeeded in his missions until the night of Operation Nightfall. We had to make the world believe that Martinez, along with you, felt a lot of guilt after 5 years. The other choice was worse. Worse than making me think my whole team was dead. It's worse than giving me a fake name and telling me to forget everything I had worked hard for. Sarah's voice broke. Do you know what it's like to feel sad for people who are still alive? To feel guilty about it every day? Torres took out a tablet and typed in some codes that would have set off alarms in 3 different government offices. The screen turned on, showing secret files that weren't supposed to be real. Your team is not gone, Sarah. They are all living. Everyone is living with new names and thinking the same thing you thought, that they are the only ones left. Sarah looked at the screen in surprise. There were some new photos. Rodriguez is a nurse in Seattle. Chun teaches martial arts in Denver. Williams has a little bookstore in Maine. All of them are living. They're all ghosts like her. Why? Sarah asked quietly. Why did you do this to us? Torres shut the tablet and leaned back in her chair. Because Operation Nightfall was more than just a task, Sarah. It was an exam, a demonstration of a new type of fighting. 12 women working secretly who can get into terrorist groups in ways that men can't. You weren't only SEALs. You were the future of special missions. The truth came out in pieces, and each piece was harder to hear than the one before. Unit 77 was the Pentagon's most secret program, a team effort between Navy Special Forces and the CIA. Their mission to Syria was their first big assignment aimed at getting into a group of terrorists that was planning attacks in the United States. The information was reliable. Torres said, "We had a contact inside the group who had been giving us information for months." The idea was easy. Go in, find the leaders, remove the danger, and leave. Neat and precise. But it was a trick, Sarah said, her voice empty. The biggest trick in modern war. Our source was not just affected. He was working for both sides from the start. The whole group of terrorists was set up to attract American special forces. They knew we were on our way before we even left the starting point. Sarah shut her eyes, thinking about the night when everything fell apart. The team used a submarine to get close, and then swam 2 miles to the shore in the dark of night. The building was exactly where the information said it would be. The guards stood where they were told to. It seemed too simple, but they had learned to trust their information. We just walked into it, Sarah said. We were 12 of the Navy's best, and we went into it unprepared like beginners. You walked into the most clever trap in military history. Torres fixed it. The enemy had been getting ready for it for more than a year, watching how Americans do things and figuring out our methods. They knew exactly how we would try to reach our goal, and how we would respond if something didn't go as planned. The surprise attack went exactly as planned. The first explosion broke their communication systems, so they couldn't call for help. The second explosion caused part of the building to fall down, splitting the team apart. By the time Sarah understood what was going on, half of her team had already been taken. I saw them take Rodriguez, Sarah said, her voice very quiet. She was 20 feet from me, and I couldn't do anything. They had her tied up and had a hood over her head before I could even get my gun ready. The enemy wanted to take prisoners, Torres said. They wanted to research you to understand how American women spies were trained. You were something they had never seen before. Women who could fight like men and sneak into their groups, using their own cultural beliefs against them. Sarah was the last person caught. She hid for 6 hours in the broken-down building before they finally found her. She had taken out 11 enemy fighters before they stopped her with a tranquilizer dart, and even then, she almost got away twice while being moved. 4 months, Sarah said. 4 terrible months, and you abandoned us. We did all we could, Torres said, and for the first time, her voice cracked. Every plan to get people out, every way of talking through diplomacy, every secret deal. But the enemy didn't want to trade prisoners or ask for money. They tried to show that American women were not as strong as American men. The torture was done in a careful way, not only to get information, but also to break their sense of self. The enemy had learned about psychological warfare and knew how to mess with the minds of top soldiers. They used many harsh methods like waterboarding, sexual assault, lack of sleep, and mind games. They forced us to watch, Sarah said, her voice sounding far away. Whenever one of us broke, the others had to watch. They wanted us to notice each other's weaknesses and to stop believing in our training, our country, and ourselves. But you stayed strong, Torres said softly. None of you completely fell apart. Even when they believed they had you under control, you were secretly making a plan to get away. Sarah's escape was amazing, but no one would ever share the story. She had been working for weeks to break a piece of concrete in her cell wall, spending a few minutes on it when the guards weren't looking. When she finally got the chance, she used it to take down 3 guards and escape from the place. 47 miles, Sarah said. 47 miles through dangerous land with a hurt shoulder and bleeding inside. I walked for 3 days, hiding during the day and using the North Star to guide me, like a traveler from long ago. You saved yourself, Torres said, and by doing that, you helped the program. What do you mean? Torres turned on the tablet again and showed Sarah secret reports about what happened after she escaped. Your way out showed our troops exactly where the place was. We managed to get the rest of your team out in 72 hours. But most importantly, we caught the whole group of terrorists, including the double agent who tricked you. Sarah looked at the screen and saw pictures of her teammates being put onto medical helicopters. Living, but hurt. They are truly alive. All of them, at least in their bodies. In a simple way, you could say, Torres shrugged, showing that it didn't bother him. That's why we had to remove all of you. The mission was too secret to talk about, but the pain was too deep to overlook. We gave you all new names, new beginnings, a chance to get better without the weight of holding state secrets. But we weren't getting better, Sarah said. We felt really sad inside, thinking we were alone and that we had messed up. I know, Torres said, and you could hear the burden of 5 years of guilt in her voice. I made a bad decision. I believed I was keeping you safe, keeping the program safe, and keeping the country safe. Instead, I was only looking out for my own job. Sarah looked closely at the Admiral's face and noticed how much the cover-up had affected him. Torres looked older than she was because she was tired from carrying many secrets and what she knew. Choices ruined the lives of 12 women who believed in her. What happens next?